What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about investing one Omicron into Grand Arena teams that are going to get you pretty far. Omicron materials, they are expensive, they're hard to get, and it feels like every single week we get some new team that requires 4 or 5 different Omicrons on them. We are going to be focusing on teams where if you just drop one Omicron onto that team, it's really going to get you pretty far in Grand Arena. There are some starter teams on here. There are some meta teams in here as well. We're going to kind of work our way through this, talk about what to expect with those Omicrons, who they can beat, what's required to counter them once you invest that Omicron. We're going to break that all down in today's video. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive right into it. And the first one I want to bring up is kind of a cheat because it's not necessarily one full team, but just one single character, and that is going to be the very lovely Wampa. If I can find her, there she is. Good old Miss Wampa. This one is just the Cornered Beast Omicron, and with this Omicron inside of Grand Arena, she gains 100% bonus tenacity, and then if she's the only one on her team, she gains 75% extra defense, max health, max protection, and offense, and doubled if there's only one active enemy at the start of the battle. So you got some cleanup ability with her as well here, but really what you were expecting with this is that she's getting stacking damage through damage over time effects that are applied to the enemy team, and she applies them just by being damaged, and those effects cannot be resisted. She's also able to reduce the Furious Foe cooldown as she is attacked, and she gets stacking tenacity as well. This Furious Foe gives her constantly stacking accuracy, crit chance, and offense, and then she's getting 15% turn meter for each defeated ally and each active enemy. You're constantly using the Roar. You're using that to build up the damage on her. She's countering a lot because of the damage over time effects on the enemy team. This one is really good, and if you go and look as to what you can counter with this team here, we're going to start from the very top here. So a couple things like General Grievous, it's not as viable. This is one that's kind of just never really quite worked, especially with staff there now. It's really tricky. But Ewoks, the Iron Versio teams with Scout Trooper will counter this as well because of the fact that Scout Trooper can apply an unresistible daze to your Wampa, so that kind of shuts that down. But if you find an Iron Versio team without Scout Trooper on it, this is actually a lot more viable. Your Captain Phasmas, Mon Mothma teams without Luthen Rael, this one works really well. This is usually what I use when I run across a Mon Mothma team that doesn't have Luthen Rael on there, who is also going to be in this video, just a heads up. But yeah, you can see here once we get to, so it's still having some trouble with the Iron Versio teams, which surprises me because I've never really had that issue without Scout Trooper there. I'm always beating the other teams, and maybe that's just because I have it real well modded for a lot of extra tenacity and speed. Maybe that's what's causing it, but yeah, usually you have pretty good win rates against Iron Versio teams that don't have Scout Trooper. So seeing some of these down below 50% is always kind of surprising. But yeah, there's Ewoks. If you go and look over at the win percentage with this, yeah, you can see your old Phoenix team that doesn't have Captain Rex on here, Ewoks pretty high. Yeah, here you go, Iron Versio. Yeah, this usually is what I end up using, Iron Versio or Mon Mothma. But you can see some pretty good compositions that it's able to fight. Now, this is a really good starting Omicron. It's not going to get you pretty far, as you can probably tell from this. This does fall off in power, but for a character that you have to build up that's going to be used to get Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, who you then have to use for 3 different Galactic Legends, you're going to be building up Wampa anyways. You might as well invest this Omicron to get you started, because you will just have this character on hand, and you get this Omicron, and as you work your way up the leagues, this is going to fall off in power, but that's where other characters are going to come into play as well with some of the other Omicrons we're going to have on here. So next up, I want to talk about another good starting Omicron, and that is the Omicron on Captain Rex. And with this Omicron, while he's in Grand Arena, he gains 30% crit damage, an additional 60% max health, and 25 speed. But then he gets some 5v5 and 3v3 specifications as well. For 5v5, with him, you are using him with Phoenix, and this allows the Phoenix team to basically cleanse ability block and daze, and then whenever he uses his basic, he recovers 10% health and protection. But the magical thing about this is because of that Harrison Dula lead, the uniques are shared across the team. So you are getting this ability to not just get the extra health, speed, tenacity, everything on him, but then the other Phoenix allies get that as well, and that also applies to the Omicron. So he's also able to, the rest of the team is able to cleanse that ability block and daze. they're also able to use use their basic abilities to recover health and protection. So you do have some strong synergy already with that. And in terms of what you can expect with this team on offense, this one is like a dedicated Reva counter for the most part. You can see we're fighting against Gungans, and there is some mixed success with fighting Third Sister and the Inquisitor team, but this has become a very dedicated team when fighting against Inquisitors. And you can see we're bringing in some other characters, like we're bringing like L3 or Geonosian Brood Alpha or Sith Empire Trooper, and that's kind of helping the win rate a little bit. But this is a dedicated Third Sister Inquisitor counter if you have them for offense. So this is one that I know a lot of people use when they run across Reva. It's not a bad one. You probably built up this team a long time ago, but you can see a lot of Inquisitor counters here, just different Inquisitor Third Sister mix-ups with different team compositions. So you're getting some pretty good success with this. This can also beat Commander Luke Skywalker. It can beat up on General Grievous, though his staff does make it a little more difficult. But in terms of defense, it's not as viable on defense for 5v5. Like, you can use General Skywalker with this. Traya runs over them pretty easily. Malgus can destroy them pretty easily as well. Even Tuskens can get through your Phoenix team pretty easily with Captain Rex on defense. So it's not necessarily a strong defensive team. There's a lot of good, strong counters to this already. Even Starkiller can beat up on this. So yeah, here's one. Good old Wampa. Some people trying Wampa and quickly learning that it does not work. Yeah, Wampa gets destroyed by Phoenix. And then you get into 3v3 with him and Clone Troopers, and they're applying the Armor Shred when assisting. They have a chance to dispel all buffs on the target enemy. So you do get to use this in 3v3 with clones, and the typical team with this is going to be Rex with Captain Rex and Fives. Fives has a nice counter. He's able to call some allies to assist, and then that's where they're more of a defensive type of team, and that's where you're starting to see some strong viability where people are having to use strong counters to them, like Malgus, Lord Vader, Jedi Master Kenobi, Darth Bane. But if you look at the ones we see most often, well, now you see like Qui Gon Jinn with his Omicron. You have General Skywalker you're having to bring in, Darth Revan, your Maul with your Mandalorians, your Inquisitors, Starkiller. Some very strong teams that you're having to use to counter this. So the trick here is that you're kind of eating up some of these stronger counters. You're going to put this out front. You're going to have your opponent use some strong counters like Malgus, like Inquisitors, like Traya, to kind of get through them. And if they can't, well, now they've wasted a strong team, and now they have to bring in another team for cleanup. But either way, this is one that just with one Omicron, now you're requiring some strong counters to it on defense with Clone Troopers in 3v3. And then in Phoenix on 5v5 for offense, you can usually kill your Inquisitor teams pretty easily with this one as well. So next up, I want to talk about Qui Gon Jinn, and I suspect that this character and the Galactic Republic Jedi team for Grand Arena is going to see a bit of a resurgence with the introduction of Jocasta Nu once we get this conquest finished up. She does have that Jedi Vanguard synergy. She is Galactic Republic, and she does have some Omicrons on her as well for Grand Arena, and it's probably going to be one where you use her under a Jedi or a Qui Gon Jinn lead because of the synergies here with the fact that all other Jedis are gaining extra offense. They can't be defeated while Qui Gon Jinn is active. And then when he is defeated, all Jedi allies recover health and protection and gain 400% of his offense for 2 turns. So you do get some nice power here with this. This is a really strong offensive team. Jocasta Nu is probably going to fit into this team pretty well. But normally what you pair up with Qui Gon Jinn and his Omicron is going to be the very lovely Anakin or Jedi Knight Anakin. And with this, it's because of his Righteous Fury. Whenever another ally falls below 50% health or is defeated, he gets that bonus turn. His next attack deals 100% more damage if all allies were Galactic Republic at the start of battle. And normally you're using that with Overpowering Assault. And we're talking like hundreds of thousands of damage with this AoE attack. It does some absolutely incredible damage. And it's one that you're going to invest in pretty early on as a new player. This is going to get you pretty far. It does fall off in power as we go on, but again, I do suspect that Jocasta Nu with her Omicrons for Grand Arena will help drastically boost this team in terms of what to expect with this team when you are fighting them. So for offense, they can beat Tuskens pretty easily. They're struggling as Great Mothers. We have Tuskens, some resistance teams. Yeah, we got the Karth Anasi with the Omicron, and that does not do as well. That Zalbar Omicron just kind of beats him up. But normally you're fighting Tuskens, you're fighting these Qui Gon Jinn mirror counters with this. It's really falling off in power right now, and that's where I suspect Jocasta Nu is going to help kind of lift this team, and we're going to see what we get with it. But yeah, these are your scene, and if you look at what you're guaranteed to win, normally it's Tuskens. So Tuskens with their Omicrons and Grand Arena. That's normally what you're using Tuskens against. In terms of what is used to counter them, well, Bad Batch used to be pretty good, and then the introduction of Keller and Beck made things quite a bit more difficult. With Keller and Beck, you're getting like the cleanse, the healing on your team. So the Keller and Beck really does counter Bad Batch. Bad Batch doesn't really work against this team much anymore, but Gungans have come into the picture now, and Gungans are normally what we're using to counter Qui-Gon Jinn. You've got some other counters too, but those are usually waste. Like, you're not going to use your Inquisitors. You don't want to use Jedi Master Luke or Sith Eternal Emperor against them unless you've pretty much cleared everything and you've got them still sitting on your bench. You might as well pull them off and use them for easy banners here. But normally, yeah, Gungans is what I normally see people use. I've seen some Malgus as well, and the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, almost said Darth Trooper. The Dark Trooper Moff Gideon one works pretty well. Gas struggles quite a bit with this as well, but yeah, Bad Batch used to be the dedicated counter for this, but once Keller and Beck came into the picture, the Jedi Vanguard, or the Qui-Gon Jinn Omicron lead really got a nice little boost there. So it's an idea of what you guys can use to counter this team on offense and defense. And this is one that, again, I suspect with Jocasta Nu, you're going to see a nice boost in the power to this team. So next on my list is going to be Starkiller. Now, this one is not a lead Omicron. In fact, you're not using him as a lead. If you try to look up Starkiller counters, you're not going to get a lot of data because he's not a lead character. He falls under an Emperor Palpatine lead. But with this Omicron, you're already getting a lot of bonuses if there are specific character compositions. For instance, you need light side and dark side aligned force users, one of each. You need a Sith and then you need a Jedi. And then you start to get all these bonuses, the extra crit damage and max health, max protection, 35 speed, and then immunity to daze and stun. But then in Grand Arena, you get some extra stuff. You get Jedi tank allies are taunting for 1 turn. All allies have plus 35 more speed. Debuffed enemies deal 50% less damage. And then whenever Sith ally uses a basic ability, he assists, Starkiller assists. Dark side aligned force users, all allies are getting crit immunity whenever they use a special. And then Starkiller using a special ability, light side allies have their cooldowns reduced by 4. So you get some nice flexibility in terms of the light side characters for this. You almost always see him with an Emperor Palpatine lead with Mara Jade and then Starkiller. And that goes into 3v3, and then in 5v5 you bring in a couple of light side characters. You can bring in Barriss Offee as a Jedi healer. You can bring in a unaligned force user tank like Juhani at that point. You can also bring in Plo Koon, that's a Jedi, that's a tank that can taunt, and then you bring in Visas Mar, which has the ability to revive your team and can heal your team. So you get some nice synergy. There's some nice flexibility in what you can use Starkiller with in terms of Grand Arena. There's also different compositions for territory wars with this, but it all then falls underneath that lead with your Emperor Palpatine. Emperor Palpatine is pretty much what you always use with this, just because of his leadership, the extra potency and max health, with Mara Jade and how she combines in with this team. So when you go and look at the counters for this team and what you're expecting, in terms of defense, you got to bring in some pretty strong teams to beat it on defense. If you see Darth Bane a lot, Jedi Master Kenobi works pretty well. The team does not have instant defeat immunity, so what you end up using is use Commander Ahsoka Tano to take out like Visas Mar so that she doesn't revive, and if Visas Mar isn't there, well then you use it to take out Starkiller, and then the team's pretty much dead at that point. So you can see we got some pretty strong counters here, even Inquisitors, but even that, it's not guaranteed with First Order or Inquisitors. You see people are somehow still failing those. So when you go and look at what we see most often, we see Inquisitors. We see people trying Commander Luke. I do not recommend that. Yeah, Commander Luke doesn't really work too well against this, but yeah, General Kenobi or Jedi Master Kenobi with Eternal Emperor, those are most common GL counters against this. But then in terms of what you use to beat this team with, you can see some Geonosians, some Phoenix, but then you start to see we got Rey here. And in terms of what we're seeing most often with this team and what they're beating, Galactic Legends. We have Rael a lot in here. Rael, it's a pretty solid counter against Rael. It can get tricky with Ezra Exile there. As you can see, we get a huge difference from between matches here, like 71%, 52%, and then as soon as they bring in Ezra Bridger Exile, well, suddenly it drops to 18%. So if you run into a Rael that does not have Ezra, it's a pretty solid counter. It can also beat Jabba. I've seen it also beat Jedi Master Luke on defense as well, though you don't see Jedi Master Luke on defense a lot these days, but just kind of scrolling through this, you can see a lot of Rael counters in here. This is a very dedicated Rael counter team. There is some Jabba stuff again in here, but I think there's better teams you can be using on offense to beat Jabba. So this one, I think you would be better off using this against a Rael if you don't have your unaligned Force user team with Seer Junda and Malicos. I think this one is going to work pretty well against them. Apologies for the clock going off in the background. So that is what I normally use or see Starkiller for. I usually have mine on defense just because it requires a pretty strong counter to beat them on defense, and just with that one Omicron, you get some really strong boosts to your team with it. You have the extra speed, the crit damage, the max health protection, all that good stuff. Very lovely Omicron. You can invest in the other two on him if you want to, but these are by no means necessary. Just the unique on There's Much Conflict in here, or There's Much Conflict in You with the Omicron there. That is the only Omicron you really need for Starkiller. So since we're on the topic of dark side characters here, might as well talk about Darth Bane, hands down the best conquest character we have ever gotten inside of Galaxy of Heroes, and it all comes down to what he can do with Grand Arena with just the Omicron on his Rule of 2 unique ability. This requires him to be with just one other Sith character on his team. Summons can come in, and we had a Datacron for Darth Bane that allowed us to summon some Sith allies, but that didn't really break anything, so it's just at the start of the battle. But with this, you require one other Sith ally, and with this, you also get some pretty strong bonuses: immunity to ability block, cooldown increase, healing immunity, stun, and Terminator reduction, extra max health and protection, ignoring taunts, and that's all good and stuff. And then you get to the Grand Arena bonuses: extra mastery, max health protection, bonus max health protection offense when enemies are defeated, and he gets a bonus turn at the start of the fight. Now, what this means is that all of his damage is based off his max health, and his mastery does give us extra accuracy, damage, and defense penetration, but it's all really tied to his max health. And one other thing you can use here is the Omicron on Essence of Dominance. You do not need this. This one is very nice to have. It is a recommended one, but you don't need it to really get to the power of what Darth Bane can do. With the Essence of Dominance, you're already increasing the enemy cooldowns by 1. He's siphoning max health from the target enemy. He's getting that extra max health on his team, on his health pool, which then means more damage for himself. And in terms of what you're normally using with Darth Bane on offense, I've seen a lot of people bring in Count Dooku, because Count Dooku you have to take up to Relic 8 to get to Lord Vader, and then you get extra power on Darth Bane because of the high Relic Amplifier levels on the enemies or the allies who are defeated. I've also seen Sith Assassin and Sith Empire Trooper. Sith Empire Trooper has a nice pre-taunt here that you can use to kind of eat up some instant defeats, because there is no instant defeat immunity with Darth Bane, so Sith Empire Trooper does kind of eat that up. And when Sith Empire Trooper dies, well, now you get some extra bonuses on Bane. Sith Assassin as well also works really well, because she does give some extra boost to turn meter on your team. And then in terms of what you can use on offense with this, well, the big one is going to be, you can beat some solid Galactic Legends with this, but also Queen Amidala is an easy counter for Darth Bane here. And you can see we've got Sith Assassin, we've got Sith Empire Trooper. You can also easily beat Reva Inquisitors with this. There's another really good one. You can also beat a couple of Galactic Legends with this. Easy counter to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, even with the Emo Rey now on his team. Still a very easy counter for that. Can also beat Leia. It will work against Jabba the Hutt as well, but not as well. And if you run into an Ahsoka Tano team on defense that doesn't have Ezra Exile present, well, this can also easily run over it. I've got to find one where Ezra was present, and it did not work as well. But yeah, without Ezra Exile there, if someone's using Ezra on the Rey team, well, then it opens up the it opens up a swgoh Tano to be easily countered by your Darth Bane teams. So you can see a lot of Queen Amidala, some Galactic Legend Rey, some Galactic Legend Kylo Ren with the new Rey on his team. So you've got some pretty strong counters here already, even Gungans, though that feels like a little bit overkill because you want to have this more for something like Queen Amidala. Can beat Baylan Skoll too on defense. There are some other teams that will do better because they have the ability to manipulate turn meter, which is a big weakness of your Baylan Skoll teams on defense. So really strong on offense. You can also throw him under a Sith Eternal Empire lead as well. He's supposed to be a lifter for this Galactic Legend, and in turn, we actually got a character that's better than Sith Eternal Empire on offense. So go figure. But yeah, you can use those two characters together to easily also counter some Galactic Legends. If you do run into a Jedi Master Luke on defense, you can pretty much easily beat this. The one Galactic Legend that's very tricky with this is going to be your Jedi Master Kenobis, because Commander Ahsoka Tano will bypass them. Like, they don't have instant defeat immunity, so Sith Empire Trooper is kind of important there, but even then it's still tricky. I don't like it. I usually use this for something more like Reva, or like a couple of Galactic Legends that are on defense if I see First Order. Well, here now that's where I use Darth Bane. Alright, so one more dark side user I want to get here before I wrap up with a couple more characters on the light side, and that is going to be Third Sister with Inquisitors. Just the lead Omicron on here, the fact that you're getting defense penetration on your team, but also the big thing here is the death mark with this. If you fight an enemy that has a lot of cleansing abilities on them, whenever they cleanse all stacks of Purge, well, now they get inflicted with Death Mark. Death Mark means they take a lot of extra max health damage, and then when they are defeated while Death Mark is active, that character cannot be revived. So this is a huge Omicron lead. The Inquisitors overall are incredibly powerful. You have this team where you had Grand Inquisitor that didn't quite live up to the hype, was a pretty lackluster team with his lead. They're solid inside of Territory Wars, but then you get to like Grand Arena and they were just terrible. They couldn't beat any Galactic Legends. They were marketed, I believe originally were marketed as a team that could beat Jedi Master Kenobi, and then they just get absolutely destroyed. So once Reva came into the game, this team got a huge facelift. They got a lot more viability with them, and you can see I've just got one Omicron with that lead. She has a couple more that aren't solid, but by no means necessary in any way. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can skip the Reckless Sweep Omicron. It just doesn't really get you any strong power in terms of that investment. But the Driven by Revenge, I have seen some people drop this Omicron on here, but again, for this video, we're just focusing on single Omicron teams and what you can get with this team. Now, what to expect with them inside of Grand Arena? Let's start by talking about what's used to counter them, and you can see a lot of Darth Bane. So you've got that, you've got Darth Malgus, Sith Eternal Emperor with Darth Bane again. And one that's really interesting is General Skywalker, and you bring in Captain Rex with this. And this is an interesting one. I've seen it pop up quite a bit. This is one that I don't really use on defense because of this one, because I'm afraid that someone's just going to easily counter it with this team. Now, granted, this is good because it eats up two separate teams, because now you've used up your 501st team with General Skywalker, and now you've destroyed the viability of Phoenix. Now they can't really use their Phoenix team on offense in terms of Grand Arena. So this is one that's really interesting. It's an easy counter, but it does destroy the viability of two different teams in the process. You're cannibalizing. It's basically a 2-for-1 with this one. So that one easily beats it, but it does kind of suck seeing that General Skywalker with Captain Rex does easily beat it. Unaligned Force users on offense, pretty strong. I usually normally use them to beat Rey, but with this team here, you can also easily beat your Inquisitor. So you're seeing here a lot of strong counters to Third Sisters on defense, but these are all really meta teams. Traya, Unaligned Force users, Darth Malgus, General Skywalker with Captain Rex, Mandalorians, Jabba the Hutt. So you're having to use really strong teams to beat them on defense. We talked about Phoenix already. Now, in terms of what they can beat, in terms of what using them on offense to beat, the most common thing that we see them used against is Jedi Master Kenobi. And this one gets tricky, especially if Ahsoka Tano's Snips is there, because she's constantly assisting and dispelling. She's bypassing the taunt that you get on Third Sister, and then they're normally taking out some of their other characters with instant defeat through Commander Ahsoka. Normally they're beating like Grand Inquisitor, which is kind of vital for this team. But you can see they can beat some really other good teams. The Great Mother team, Night Sister team on defense. That one can be a pain. Easily walking over Qui Gon Jinn on defense. That seems like a little bit of overkill though. Also using to beat your Star Killer teams on defense, Queen Amidala. A bit more tricky. Guaranteed wins against Mon Mothma, which is, there's better options there, I guess. But yeah, you see some Star Killer, some Queen Amidala, some Jabba the Hutt does struggle, but Jedi Master Luke, if you see Jedi Master Luke on defense, this is one that easily walks over that team. But yeah, you're seeing some solid teams that it can beat on offense, but I think the real power on this team is going to be on defense. So the second to last character I'm going to talk about here is Luthen Rael, another recent Conquest character, and was a very solid lifter to Rebel Fighter teams. There's two different Rebel Fighter teams you use him with, Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma. I like him a lot better with the Mon Mothma team because it's a really strong team on offense, and all you need is the Omicron on Dreams with Ghost. And with this, if there are no Galactic Legend Rebel allies at the start of battle, Mon Mothma and Rebel Fighter allies gain 30% bonus max health, mastery, and 20 speed, and they get 50% bonus protection for 1 turn. And then the first time the Rebel Commander is defeated in each battle, you summon another Rebel Trooper and then instantly promote him to Commander. Now, what you get with this is a very fast character. He's got like 180 base speed. He's one of the fastest characters in the game that's not a Galactic Legend. And you do have a couple more Omicrons you can invest on him, but these are by no means really necessary. These are luxury at best. That basic one, I would say probably one of the worst of the Grand Arena Omicrons. It's just really useless. But you get Sunless, you get this Omicron on him, you get Sunless Space, which gives them extra turn meter, they're dispelling, they get speed up and bonus protection. There's a lot of bonuses with this, and with this Rebel Fighter team on offense, you get a strong team. Now, you can use the Saw Gerrera. I like it with Mon Mothma, just I have built up Mon Mothma with my POW and everything. I love POW on this channel. I mean, I've got the Darth POW logo for crying out loud on this channel. But this Mon Mothma lead, where they're splitting or they're combining and increasing their stats of their max health, protection, offense, defense, potency, tenacity, etc. Using that with the mass assist chance as well through Mon Mothma, this team works really well on offense. It can be a little bit of a liability on defense, but when you go and look at what this team is using to beat on offense, one thing I want to point out that a lot of people don't use, it surprises me, is number one, easily crushes any Jedi Master Luke team you see on defense. Now, you don't see a lot of those in higher leagues, and also can easily beat Lord Vader, which again, we'll see. I doubt this will work once we get the Dark Side Clone Troopers in here. But one other that I want to point out that really surprised me, and one that I use but no one really uses a lot, is it can beat Rey, and that includes if Ezra Bridger Exile is present. A lot of people don't use this. I don't think people understand exactly what we've got with this team on offense, especially when you bring in some other characters. Like, you're bringing in Captain Rex, which means you're destroying your Phoenix viability, but if you can use Captain Rex with this Mon Mothma team and really kind of defeating like a Galactic Legend, that's a win in my book. Like, that's pretty good, because it's just really like what you're being able to do is defeat Galactic Legends. And if you're just bringing in like a Conquest character like Luthen Rael with a bunch of marquee characters, that is perfect. I love that. But in terms of what else you're also beating this team with on offense, we'll just kind of bring up what we're seeing normally with this team. A lot of Gungans. We're finding a lot of Gungans to mixed results here with this one. There's also some fights against Leia Organa, which is not working very well. You can also be in the Admiral Trench with them. But really, I think this one, I use it normally to beat Jedi Master Luke teams, Rey teams on offense. I wish people had more confidence and were using them more often. They can also beat your Qui Gon Jinn teams that are on defense if that's what you want to go for. So this one's not quite as strong as some of the other ones we've seen here. And in terms of what people are using to beat it, normally we're seeing like Inquisitors, General Skywalker. Wampa can beat it as well, but that's if Luthen Rael is not there. Once Luthen Rael is on the team, Rebel fighters kind of walk over Wampa. She doesn't really have a chance here. CLS has mixed results, but normally we're seeing like Traya. Yeah, Traya destroys your Mon Mothma teams. Your Inquisitors kind of beat them up too. And then finally, one of the new teams on the block, and that's going to be the new Bad Batch team. This one is incredibly powerful on offense in Grand Arena. They are terrible on defense. The team just has no idea what to do with target practice. They're kind of all over the place. They're not stacking up target practice. They could use some help in terms of defense, but they're just not very well coded. Now, at first glance, this Omicron on Omega Fugitive and her lead does not look too powerful, but once we got to start using it and testing it, we really started to see just what this team can accomplish inside of Grand Arena. The first part doesn't look that great. Whenever an ally is damaged by expose or by an enemy with bonus protection, all enemies receive damage equal to 1% of their max health for each stack of target practice. Now, this also does not apply if there are any galactic legends on the field, which is unfortunate, but when you see this team in action, they can beat multiple galactic legends, so that's good to know. Stealth allies are immune to damage over time and plague. Again, not that great. The final part down here is where things really come into full view here. Whenever a Bad Batch ally is stunned or another ally falls below 100% health, they get a bonus turn. That is huge. Now, in terms of what this team can beat on offense, we don't have a lot of data right now because most players have not invested in this team, and I think you don't want to take everything on swgoh.gg at face value for this team because a lot of people don't build this up. There's probably a lot of bad modding with this team as well, just not correct investments. This is one, if you want to go check it out, go watch my video where I break down a bunch of teams I'm beating on offense with this. One thing I do see a lot here is we're using it to beat Queen Amidala, Great Mothers. A little bit of mixed success with Queen Amidala here. I think the problem is that with Padawan Obi-Wan and being able to ignore protection, you're quickly getting a lot of bonus turns. But if you don't have this team built up in terms of relics, he's going to just absolutely wipe the team out. They can beat Qui Gon Jinn, they can beat Traya. The one that really surprised me, and I don't know what's going on here because I have never had problems with this, is Jabba the Hutt. I have never lost in any game mode against Jabba the Hutt with the Bad Batch team. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here with this one. This one's pretty easy. I think what people are doing is they're not going after Leia. And one understated power with this team, and I think that a lot of people don't understand yet, is the captive mechanic here. If you're using Omega Fugitive and you've got the new Bad Batch characters on her team, with this, whenever one of them would be defeated, they go into captivity. Now, what this also means is that if they are instantly defeated, they go into captivity as well. So Commander Ahsoka Tano, the ultimate from Jabba the Hutt, does this as well, where they use it, and that character now goes into captivity. You can bring him back out, and you can keep just plugging away. So this captive mechanic has a nice little exploitation where you can use it against these characters with instant defeat immunity and kind of survive for one round and keep going. So you can survive that defeat from Commander Ahsoka, from Darth Nihilus, from Jabba the Hutt. That all really works well. So this team, I think, a lot of people don't have it built up right now. Hopefully we see a lot more data. But if you do, again, if you want to go see what we're using this team on offense against, go check out my video. It's got a link up in the corner. I'll also have it linked down below as well. Very, very strong team on offense, beating the likes of Inquisitors, Darth Malgus, Jabba the Hutt, Rey, I mean, yeah, Queen Amidala, very, very strong team on offense. Cannot be understated just how good this team is going to be for Grand Arena for quite a while. Just that lead on Omega Fugitive with that bonus turn with the stun and the falling below 100% health, that is absolutely fantastic. That is going to wrap it up for me here on this video. I want to hear from you guys. Are there other teams you think I should have covered as well? I'm sure there's some I'm missing here. Are there other teams you think do work pretty well with just one Omicron? Did you guys enjoy the video? If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys next time.